Hunter x Hunter is picking up steam this week. Last time, we got a look into the past as it was a flashback to the Phantom Troop as children. This week, we return to the present on the Black Whale and see an unlikely team-up between Spiders and Hinrigh. Let's dive into the details. Chapter 398 begins with Feitan, Finks, Nobunaga, and the man they captured. The four men are in a rather long hallway within a hidden area of Tier 3. Right away, their captive isn't too keen on opening the door. He tearfully begs to leave if he opens it. Unfortunately, Finks denies this request. Instead, the man must go inside the room as well. Both Nobunaga and Finks are trying to confirm a theory. Finks believes the old man who vanished is a conjurer's clone. If he is, he should be in the hidden away space. Nobunaga isn't sold on the idea though. He repeats that the old man had a teleportation ability. Either way, both Finks and Nobunaga know they're still walking into a possible trap. Then Finks explains his theory. If the old man is a conjurer's clone, then he'd have two uses. First, surveillance, and secondly, the center for the trap radius. Assuming it is a trap to begin with, we don't really know. Either way, it does sound like a sophisticated trap. Whoever set it up knew what they were doing. That being said, there is an interesting distinction. While discussing the conjurer possibility, Nobunaga says that the teleportation is closer to something an emitter does. Why? Because conjurers create spaces with complex rules, which is an interesting statement, specifically due to what we've seen of Nov's Nen abilities. In fact, if conjurer abilities don't mix well with an emitter, then Nov is a master at what he does. However, let's get back to the chapter. Nobunaga also says that the old man could just be a lookout, meaning the trap could be someone else's ability. Finks is clearly annoyed by his rambling. He tells his fellow troop member to shut up, though he does suggest the old man could be a specialist instead. Their discussion starts to turn into an argument, which is interrupted by their captive. He tells the group that the door is locked from their side. Feitan being Feitan, he demands the man open it while also threatening him. Stall again and you get torn a new. The man unlocks it with caution. Inside is merely a bathroom, plus another door that's also locked. Meanwhile, Feitan swirls his blade as a silent threat. Finks finds this aspect confusing. The way they went in was the only entrance, so how could it be locked? Nobunaga offers up an explanation. If he's a clone, the old man can just disappear after locking both the hidden room and bathroom. Feitan sees it as plausible, though he does wonder about the purpose of it. Good question, considering this is, again, an elaborate trap. Not to mention, setting this up would take some time. Finks believes it could be a distraction in order to buy time to set up the trap. Feitan then proposes that the doors themselves are the trap. Nobunaga agrees. Locking the doors is meant to buy time if someone goes through the wall, which is exactly what Nobunaga did. To be honest, the way he speaks about it reminds me of when Gon used the same technique to escape him. Finks is open to Nobunaga's theory though. Interesting considering they argue quite a bit this chapter. So maybe Nobunaga is right. Using that logic, that means they can nullify the trap. Their captive is the one who tests this. Of course, nothing happens when he steps back into the hidden room. However, they instruct him to go into the hallway and then re-enter through the normal door. Thinking himself smarter than the Phantom Troop, he tries to run. Feitan catches up to him almost instantly. Obviously, the guy is sweating and terrified. He's been held hostage by these people and threatened. And now his attempted escape failed. Feitan then ominously tells him to pick right or left. The man is clearly confused and panicked by the obscure statement. Nobunaga calls for the man to return, and Finks does too. They only do so because Feitan would cut off the man's ears otherwise. Actually, it's worse than that. Feitan said it would be one ear, but Nobunaga argues it would be both. Meanwhile, Finks says that once Feitan gets started, it won't just be ears. It's pretty brutal, but they aren't trying to be nice, especially seeing as getting him to come back is a trick. By going through the door again, their captive promptly disappears. This not only confirms their theory, but also triggers the trap without the old man present. So, Nobunaga thinks the Nen used is a landmine type. The difference between a boundary and landmine type are explained too. A boundary does exactly as it says. Multiple traps can be set, but with Nen-infused items like charms, ropes, and so on that act as triggers. Basically like a trap door. Honestly, the way it's described, it does remind me of cursed tools in Jujutsu Kaisen. Granted, the series was also inspired by Hunter x Hunter. Meanwhile, a landmine's trigger is created via Nen being applied to a specific area, typically 2 to 3 spots. If it were a landmine type, the Nen user would need to be close by, which means the Nen user causing this is probably at their encampment. They wonder how to get there. Nobunaga suggests triggering the trap. Unfortunately, that could mean another trap waiting for them as well. The way Nobunaga approaches this is actually really strategic. He thinks about the cause and effect. Whoever set this up is dangerous and shouldn't be underestimated. Although, it's possible the trigger needs to be reset each time. It sounds like a pain, but there must be a trick to it. Finks wants to test this, so they obtain another unwilling participant. This time, someone from the Cha-R crime family appeared. Just like their captive before and the old man, their latest hostage disappears. So, the trap is not single-use. In other words, it doesn't need to be reset in order to work. Honestly, I gotta admit, I like how this is presented. We know the layout of the room, plus we're seeing how the troupe is coming to conclusions. Then, Feitan offers to go first through the trap. But just before he does, Hinrigh and Kenny show up. Hinrigh offers to help, while Kenny backs him up by saying the Cha-R men are spying on 2 possible High Li members. And the Cha-R family only knew about it because of Hinrigh. Besides that, Hinrigh also found the secret room as well. Hinrigh tells the troupe he has no issue with them. It's the High Li family he has problems with. And considering he may face them soon, he can help solve that. They rupture the balance within the Kakin Mafia, so they must pay. Nobunaga thanks him but declines. So does Finks. On the other hand, Feitan asks how Hinrigh plans to find the enemy's hideout. The Shiyu underboss shows the troupe a transmitter. He says that with this device, they can find the base's location, basically like GPS. Sadly, there's gotta be a fight on the other end of this door's trap. So if they were to use another random person, their mole would probably be killed quickly. Then the transmitter would be found out within 5 minutes. Hinrigh offers a solution. Using his Nen ability, Hinrigh can turn an object into a living thing. As we've seen, it's very useful for reconnaissance and capture. They're lucky Hinrigh has such a versatile ability, otherwise it's unlikely they'd have found the base, or at least find each other. Hinrigh elaborates on his ability further. If he were killed in search, the oyster wouldn't immediately be found. The bigger the object, the less time it can spend transformed, which means the oyster is small enough to last 2 hours. Finks likes the idea and asks who will swallow it. Next comes one of the funnier moments of the chapter. Nobunaga is immediately disgusted by the oyster. He even covers his nose, saying that the taste of it makes him want to throw up. It's probably my favorite moment, considering Nobunaga comes across as so analytical in this chapter. Seeing him have such a big reaction is hilarious. Feitan also refuses, but for different reasons. He won't eat anything someone else has touched. Hinrigh expected this though. He planned to eat it anyway. Brave of him too, especially because he'll be going right into the enemy's lair. Swallowing it in a single gulp, Hinrigh then tells the troupe about the receiver. The device is simple in design and in function. It can locate the transmitter, but it isn't very precise. The closer the transmitter is, the louder the noise it emits is. It also has a max radius of 1 kilometer, which is a bit more than half a mile. Not to mention, the receiver doesn't calculate altitude, so if they're close but see no one, then it's either above or below them. Hinrigh assures the group he'll try to hide the transmitter before it's found. Otherwise, it would be discovered once he was dissected by the High Li members. After all, it has a transformation limit of 2 hours. Hinrigh promptly disappears into the trap, leaving the troupe. Nobunaga has a good impression of the underboss. Suddenly, something is noticeable on the receiver. The transmitter is pretty far away. Finks estimates it to be in the 500 to 1,000 meter range. Interesting range, considering the black whale is 1,500 meters long. Feitan tells the group to head to the center of Tier 3. If the hideout is there, they'll know. Both Finks and Nobunaga argue over it, but Feitan still insists someone should go. Granted, he is annoyed by their bickering. This is a serious situation, so there's no time to argue. Besides, they're running on limited time anyway. Speaking of, Hinrigh materializes in an almost barren room. The effect of the teleportation seems to cause a temporary loss of balance. This may be due to the ability itself, or it could just be because of the rapid change of environment. But once he is able to stand, Hinrigh notices that he is alone. In the room is a poster and a sink with a hose. There are multiple doors, but only 3 have signs on them. They look rather ominous, as if painted in blood. Fresh blood is also present on the tiled floors. Very likely, this is the blood of the Cha-R grunts they sent beforehand. Upon seeing it, Hinrigh wonders if the others that went through were interrogated. Before he continued to ponder, Nobunaga appears. He doesn't lose his balance and looks ready for a fight. In fact, Nobunaga is surprised that no one is there to meet them. Hinrigh is confused. He didn't expect Nobunaga to join him. However, the troupe member simply replies that Hinrigh could use the help. Granted, both Finks and Feitan objected to Nobunaga doing this. They worried that Hinrigh may have set the trap. However, Nobunaga says that Hinrigh's response shows his innocence. He didn't believe the underboss set the trap, and he was right. Despite Hinrigh still being confused, Nobunaga asks what he wants to do next. Should they watch or do something? He also asks for Hinrigh's name again, and the question feels like a bit of an insult. Though earlier Nobunaga did say he liked Hinrigh, so it's actually meant more as a compliment now. He tells Hinrigh he couldn't be bothered to remember it. A bit of a weird dynamic between the two, but I like the team-up. Hinrigh gives his name a second time and decides to take action. Nobunaga agrees with him. It's what he wanted to pick too, despite the lack of information they have. Then, Nobunaga touches the wall and sends his Nen. He confirms this place to be their hideout and cuts at the wall. The cuts quickly disappeared, proving his theory that the room is protected. Nobunaga wonders who could be responsible. It could be a conjurer, transmitter, or even a specialist. He tells Hinrigh that the mysterious Nen user's stage must be strong because his katana couldn't cut through it. He ponders if the Nen user is close by due to the power of the stage. This is due to a limitation making the barrier harder to counter. Then, we see Morena, whom Nobunaga and Finks agreed to kill. Interestingly enough, we were introduced to her mafia family prior to the troop flashback. They're a formidable group that is bankrolled by the 4th Prince Saraide Quigo-Ro. While Morena is the most dangerous, there's also Dogman, Terabellum, and Tevelaris to worry about. Either way, Hinrigh states this place was used for travel in the footage he has. Because of that, he agrees with Nobunaga. The troop member says there will be plenty of security, so they might as well head straight to the group's leader. Hinrigh suggests they begin to open doors, and there's 6 in total. Nobunaga volunteers, but Hinrigh wants to open them himself so they can hopefully learn how any traps work by having the spider keep an eye on him. It's a solid idea considering they deduce so much about the Nen trap just by testing ideas and watching. In fact, that's all they can really do. They're in the heart of enemy territory, plus they don't know where they are, so they're both at a clear disadvantage. The doors themselves reveal rather normal-looking rooms. There's a bathroom, a shower, and 3 toilets. Must mean Hylia is a large family, as Nobunaga points out. Is it a part of the trap? It's genuinely something we find peculiar. Due to the utility of the rooms, Nobunaga wonders if the group will eventually come to do their business. But waiting isn't something Hinrigh wants to do. The underboss reminds Nobunaga that he picked action. They must do something. As Hinrigh picks a door, he states his confidence in Nobunaga. Even if Hinrigh dies, he believes Nobunaga can keep the transmitter safe. He uses an honorific which Nobunaga objects to. Maybe he just hates politeness. Then, Hinrigh swings open the door to a familiar scene. The room is none other than the place where Chiffon and Mont Blanc were disposing of a dead body. Perhaps Nobunaga and Hinrigh will run into them. The final text reads, "What kind of demons are awaiting them?" Spooky. Personally, I think this chapter is a good setup and has us excited for what's to come. Who could Nobunaga and Hinrigh be running into? Will the other spiders end up joining in? With that being said, I'm Jack Stansbury. Peace out.